It's hard to say goodbye if you won't leave is the 10th episode of the 3rd season of Frasier. This is directed by Philip Charles MacKenzie, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I talk about this episode. And despite the fact that I don't like Kate as a character, I kind of like this episode, and I don't know if it's because she's leaving. I don't know if I have that relief that we're getting to the end of this character, or if I genuinely enjoy things that happen in this. I think it's the latter, but if somebody were to convince me it's the former, I'd be totally okay with that because I'm not a fan of the character. But nevertheless, Frasier definitely is. And in a way, it's kind of an emotional episode for Frasier. It starts off at the beginning with Roz finding out that Kate is Dirty Girl. And I feel like it's a good thing that she found out. I feel like Roz and Frasier spend so much time together that it's important that she knows about this. However, I wish she'd been in it a little bit more. Not just because I love Roz, but I think it would have been interesting to see her reaction. For example, in the scene when Frasier and Kate go down in the elevator together, it would have been interesting to see Roz at that point or at another point when we see them together, just to see how she would have responded to that. Once Roz finds out, we then cut to the next scene. Niles is in the kitchen with Daphne. He's there, well, technically to learn how to cook now that he lives on his own, but also it's Niles. We know he likes spending time with Daphne, and he causes all kinds of problems. And the most irritating thing about this scene, it's brilliant, I love it, but Daphne drops what looks like raw chicken on the floor, picks it up with her hands, and then wipes her hands on a tea towel, and at least in that moment, doesn't rush to wipe the raw chicken off of the floor. So that kind of irritates me a bit, but I am obviously overthinking it. Frasier then comes home and he reveals that he actually has a date the following night, but he is preoccupied with somebody else. He doesn't say that it's Kate, but it's very obvious that this is Kate. And later on, he then meets her in the elevator, and she tells him that she's going to Chicago. She's leaving KCL, and she's not been around for very long, so that's a quick turnaround for her to get a new position, but nevertheless, she is leaving, and Frasier is clearly upset because he started to realise that he might actually have genuine feelings for her. It's not just a lust anymore. He might actually deeply care about her, and his expression as the elevator doors close on him, it's quite moving and very, very well done. Later on, they're back at the apartment. Frasier is getting ready for the date. Niles comes in, kind of excited with some VHS tapes. And on the one hand, I enjoyed the conversation because I have seen Casablanca. But at the same time, I never condone spoiling the end of any film ever. I feel like even films like Titanic, where most people are going to know how that film ends, you never know what somebody knows. So you should never, ever spoil a film. And I feel like a TV show spoiling a film's ending is just so irresponsible, because there will be plenty of people watching this who have never seen that film, who don't know how it ends, who mean to get round to watching it, and then Frasier the TV show, it's actually Daphne who ruins it. I don't agree with it at all, because you should never assume that somebody knows how something ends if they haven't seen it. And this is how Niles reacts. Niles is annoyed that the ending has been ruined for him and he doesn't see the point in watching it now. And while I don't necessarily agree with that, because there are many things to enjoy about films, not just the ending, it does ruin the experience. But I talk about this whenever the opportunity comes up. Just never, ever spoil the ending for any film or TV series, because you never know what that person does or doesn't know. So that did really irritate me. But as I said, because I've seen the film, I understand the references, I did enjoy the conversation. But I don't know if the first time I saw this I'd seen Casablanca. I can't remember, but I think it is one where I've personally been aware of the ending, because yes, it is so popular. But again, not everybody is fully in tune with all of the film discussions, and that doesn't mean that it's okay to spoil the ending. I won't go on about it anymore. I just don't agree with it, and I especially don't agree with it happening in TV shows, because they wouldn't like it if somebody leaked the ending of the series. So let's not do the same thing for films. Niles is basically responding in the way that I feel. And Frasier realises then, as they're talking about the film, and this is the significance, they weren't just having a random conversation, Frasier realises, and he said, Well, actually, I won't tell you what he said because that is a spoiler for the film, but he realizes something and he decides on the back of that to go after Kate, and that's not spoiling anything in Casablanca, don't worry. And he goes after Kate and meets her at the airport, and the airport is announcing that the flight is cancelled. She's just about to go on her flight, and about 3 seconds later, she backtracks. The flight is cancelled, and they then decide to sit down and get to know each other. And I forgot to mention, we do get to meet Donna, Frasier's apparent date for the evening, played by Marnie Mosiman. We meet her very briefly. The character is absolutely fine. I don't have any specific thoughts there. The scene at the airport is quite interesting because they start to ask each other questions, and they missed an opportunity. They really missed a golden opportunity, and I was waiting for it to happen because they're talking about each other's likes and interests, and Kate reveals things that Frasier doesn't love. For example, her favourite musical is Cats. She likes to go jogging. Frasier likes to go antiquing, and Kate doesn't. And earlier in the episode, there was a conversation about questions people could ask on first dates, and one of the questions was, if you could come back as an animal, what animal would you come back as? And I was waiting for Kate to ask that question, and it would have fit in perfectly because she has a cat. She has a cat with her. Frasier has allergies. She loves cats. She's talking about her love of horses. It was the perfect opportunity to say that one thing that Frasier basically implied would make him leave the date. And they didn't. They did not take that up. Maybe they thought it was too obvious, but I was waiting for it. I'd anticipated it. So I thought that that was a missed opportunity. But nevertheless, it's still an interesting way to end the relationship. And then off Kate goes to get a different flight. And, well, she leaves behind Louis, which is not a great thing. And particularly not a great thing for Frasier or for Louis, I imagine. And then we end the episode with Niles, and it's actually a really sweet way to end the episode because he's lying, well, he's resting on the sofa. Daphne is asleep, leaning on his shoulder. Eddie is sprawled across both of them, and Niles is trying to reach for a drink, but he can't reach it. And it's just a nice way to end things, and a really lovely moment as well. So definitely, probably my favourite Kate-based episode. And I don't know, I genuinely don't know if that is because she's leaving in this episode. That sounds mean, but I'm not a fan of the character. Nothing against the performance. I think the performance of the character is brilliant. I think mostly I like to see Frasier having these feelings towards somebody. It's nice for him to feel something deep and meaningful, even if it means he's getting hurt. But it's nice for him to actually have these feelings. So I don't know why I like this episode. I can't pinpoint it. It's not perfect, but I still really thoroughly enjoy it. And needless to say, It's Hard to Say Goodbye If You Won't Leave is a pretty good episode all round.